Today I'm really excited because I'm going to be doing something that I haven't done on my channel in a really long time, and that is a book review. Yay! I don't think I've done a review on my channel since last summer. It's just been so long, like I can't even remember what's the last one I did, so I'm really excited to be kind of sitting down and being able to talk to y'all about a book and go in depth and kind of just like pick it apart. This one is going to be a little bit different than my previous ones. I've done a lot of thinking about how I want to kind of differentiate my written reviews versus video reviews, because that's kind of been one of the biggest things that's been on my mind. I love writing written reviews, and then I feel like it's redundant to make a video off the same things, so then I just end up not making video reviews. I kind of have made a distinction now, so we'll see and we'll test this out, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, I'll go back and do some more thinking. Today I'm going to be talking about my thoughts for The Kingdom by Jess Rothenberg, but rather than kind of approaching it from a very standard booktube way, which is like talking about the plot, the characters, I'm going to be approaching it through general thematic materials that are addressed through the story and how the author kind of addresses those situations or those ideas. And I don't know how well this is going to work for all the books, but it works really well for this one, so we're going to run with it. So yeah, let's get into my review. Alright, so The Kingdom takes place in this near future world, which, if you look at our current climate situation, is not that far away, and basically humanity has destroyed all of nature. And in this world, now that nature has been completely and utterly destroyed, humans have kind of created this place called the Kingdom. So all the top-notch scientists and engineers, mechanics, and all those like cool STEM people, they've come together and they've created the Kingdom, which is a place that's kind of like Disneyland, the zoo, aquarium, and a park, just all meshed together. Basically it's like their way of saying, look, we've kind of destroyed natural nature, I guess, but here's all this like artificial ones that we've created through our science and our brains, so it's fine. In this kingdom, in addition to all of the engineered like animals and all of that stuff, there are 7 fantasists, and basically fantasists are like your typical Disney princesses in like Disney. They walk around and they greet people, they like sing to them, I don't know. They're supposed to be incredibly beautiful and incredibly polite, and just like it says, your happiness is our happiness, your wish is our command. It's on the back of the book. So going into this, you already know that it's going to kind of address this whole like, do robots have feelings agenda, and it does go into that, which is something I'm going to talk about. Our main character, Anna, who's one of the fantasists, and she's accused of murdering Owen, who is, I guess, like a maintenance worker in the park, and she's saying that she didn't do it because she loves him, and why would she kill someone she loves? So it kind of goes into that whole spiel. The story itself takes place kind of in 2 different timelines. We have the present timeline where Anna's standing accused, and all of those are actually like trial files, so it's a lot of like the back and forth between attorney and witness type of thing, and then some like video clips, and just it's like really cool formatting. And then we go into the past, kind of leading up to the trial, which takes us into the world of the kingdom and kind of follows her leading up to the trial. So we figure out whether or not she actually killed Owen, and then her standing trial in the present days, if that makes sense. So it's a really cool like setup. I did really enjoy it. So I'm just gonna jump straight into it. I have my notes with me, and because like I wrote a lot of notes, I need my glasses so I can actually see. So the first thing I want to talk about is the conversation about women representation, which has been one of my favorite, I guess, topics this past semester, because I recently took a class on women's voices in literature. So in that process we read a lot of books kind of talking about how women feel and kind of following women rights throughout history. So obviously the kingdom is going to go into this because we're talking about like 7 women whose sole purpose is to look pretty and satisfy the needs of their customers, which if you like really like digest what the message that it sends, it's like not the best. This book is pretty much like female objectification in the finest, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, because the author does address how society has this mindset towards women, how the perfect woman is supposed to be beautiful and submissive, and you can't really be either. So because there's no such thing as what society has created to be the perfect woman, then we have these robots, these fantasists, and that's just a really sad thing, but it's also like very bleak and true if you think about it in our society, how we hold certain women to a certain standard. And what I found really interesting in particular with this book is that there's one scene, I guess, where they show like an advertisement for the kingdom, and there's these two little boys who their dream is to save a princess from the tower. So they go and they ride up to the castle, and instead of them saving the princess I think jumps out of the tower and rides off, and she's like, I don't need no man. And it's interesting that I guess the advertisement puts women in a way of like take the reins and kind of control their own destiny, where throughout the entire story it completely denies them that basic right. They are constant, like in the very beginning they go through hours of just preparation to look a certain part, and then there's this thing where it looks like this, but it's basically like a snippet from My Kingdom app, and they get to rate their favorite fantasists. So it has all the fantasist names, and then they are rated on beauty, kindness, conversation, sweetness, gown, helpfulness, charm, memory, smile, cuteness, face, attentiveness, body, affection, gentleness, and obedience. Like nowhere in this does it actually give them any substance to their character. Like I know they're supposed to be robots, but like at the same time, I mean, conversation could be like part of that, but at the same time it just totally blows that out of the water. So I don't know, it was a very bleak representation of what could very much be a reality in our future, which I found really interesting, and it made me sad, and I don't know, I just have thoughts. So if you have any responses to that, I guess that's where you guys come in, and kind of why I wanted to make this type of review, because I wanted to present my ideas and kind of have a conversation based off of that. So it's a very bleak representation, but kind of delving into the fantasists specifically, there's one thing that I found interesting, and that is how there is mention that the engineers were planning on creating male fantasists, but they were dismissed as being too aggressive and like the public wouldn't like it. Kind of splitting men and women into these like overarching orbs, I guess. Not orbs, they're like, I don't know, what is it called? Like a bubble. I guess it's an orb. But basically that the root of male human nature is aggression, and the root of female human nature is submissiveness and obedience. Project for the male fantasists were shut down because they could not get over that like human nature that was somehow still represented in an android robot thing, whereas but for females it's fine because their gentle nature was just going to come through regardless. So that's just another thing to like chew on that I found really interesting. The sheer amount of pressure of looks for the fantasist is something that reflects obviously the society that we live in, and also there's this kind of highlight on how much appearances matter to our society. So for example, even the guards within the kingdom, like the security, they kind of view the fantasists as these weird freaks. Like they look human but they're not human, they're not one of us type of deal. But at the same time, like there's multiple mentions of men, even women, being sexually like aggressive towards the fantasists and being like, you can't fight back, or you don't have the rights to fight back anyway. So it's kind of like this twisted mentality of superiority that is also very much within our society, of how we can kind of view someone as being less than us, and as much as we can ridicule them and hate them for it, like we can still kind of want them type of thing. So that's something that I found really interesting, and that goes into kind of my third point. I don't know if my points have been very clear, but the idea of androids or robots with the ability to love and feel, it just goes to show that when humans try to kind of play God and control things, like we put our heart into our creation regardless. So even though I would go so far as to say that Anna's creators were not very human, or kind of the darker side of humanity, they still put a bit of their human nature into her creation, and she is able to feel and love and all of that stuff. That's not a spoiler, I promise. But at the same time, it's also the idea of domination being the center of our society, because it's always the issue of the who's the one in charge. So for example, when Anna is in court and they're being like, well, she obviously killed a man, like we have proof, and then the doctor who's kind of in charge of everything is like, no, she can't, because she's a robot, like we can't give these creations more power than ourselves, like we're always going to be in control and they are not. It kind of like encircles the whole general theme I think the story is trying to get at, which is basically that human nature is greedy and power hungry. I just think that the author takes a very interesting and unique way of approaching that, kind of through the representation of female robots and kind of how dark a very perfect theme park can turn into, if that makes sense. So I don't know if any of those thoughts made any sense. I kind of feel like I've just been rambling, which I guess is part of the point. Like, I want to be able to talk about kind of my feelings about a book without having to really delve into all of the nitty-gritty stuff and like pick apart like the sentence structure and like the characterization. Like, this is just like my thoughts on the overarching kind of idea and theme that the author presents. I think it's really interesting how there's just so much you can pick apart. Like, this book, if you look at it, and my sister, who is 10 years younger than me, read this book and she was like, I'm so confused, like I don't see it. It's a little scary because I feel like I could have easily just like read through it and been like, oh yeah, cool, good story, and moved on. But when you really like nitpick and like delve into maybe like the hidden message that the author is trying to get at, you see this representation that is so ingrained in our society that if we don't look carefully, it just kind of bypasses us and we don't even notice. So I ended up giving this book a 3.5. I haven't really settled on a rating for it just because I really like the concept, if you couldn't tell, but like the characterization and all of that I did have issues with. But that will be in my blog review, which I will link down below if you're interested in checking out my thoughts kind of on that end of the spectrum. I think it's really interesting. I feel like people should still read it just for all of these ideas, and I would love to kind of hear people talk about it. If you've read The Kingdom, I would love to know what you think, just general ideas. I feel like at the end, the ideas are present, but I don't know if the delivery of these ideas were as clear and as kind of laid out and out there as I would like. Maybe it's just because my sister didn't pick up on it, so I was just kind of like, oh, maybe it's not as obvious to me, but maybe other people find it's very obvious. So we'll see. I would love to know your thoughts. I have been talking for a really long time, so we're going to stop. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, don't forget to stay caffeinated, eat some chocolate, take care of yourselves, and I will see you guys when I see you guys. Bye!